Amen. Our journeys to make our lives a blessing are often ones with many events in them, with many stumbles along the way. The most famous Jewish U.S. president, Abraham Lincoln, and I joke when I say that, but I saw Abraham Lincoln quoted recently as, Rabbi Abraham in a Aish newsletter, and it's well known in many sources of the time that Abraham was claimed by our people. So the most famous Jewish U.S. president, Abraham Lincoln, was once quoted as saying, "The path was worn and slippery. My foot slipped from under me, knocking the other out of the way. But I recovered and said to myself, it's a slip and not a fall." So on this day of Rosh Chodesh, this day of Shabbat, as our Torah portion is all about going from here to there, we reemphasize that middle bit, the two. We're coming from a place on this Shabbat that is much different than the place we were coming from last year at this time and the year before. Everything over this past year has changed us a bit. And the place we're heading is still, as of yet, unknown. Earlier today, Cantor Rose and I had a chance to speak with Lisa Eisenbaumel, our principal of our Youth Education Center, really the mastermind behind all of our youth programming here at Holy Blossom Temple. And Lisa described to us a scene of summer camp, of kids having fun, playing, doing things that have been impossible over the past year. COVID tests, I know, are part of the routine at the camp now and at many camps, but also there's a sense of returning, a new step along the journey. The process of journeying, the Baal Shem Tov tells us, is a process where we cannot forget. Because forgetting where we were is the true exile. And Rabbi Pamela Wax reminds us that the Shabbat candlesticks are always part of our journey. We have one, of course, for Shamor and one for Zachor. We have one candlestick which tells us that we should keep. What are we keeping? The Shabbat, the commandments, yes. But also, the second candlestick reminds us of what we are really keeping. Zachor, memories, the process. And one of my favorite stories, summer camp stories, is a version of Something from Nothing. The story which talks about a garment passed down through the generations, which eventually disappears after so much use, so much experience, so many times being held and touched and rubbed, and having little threads taken away by the mice to play with. In the end, the boy feels like he is left with nothing to hold in his hands. But of course, what he has is the beginning of a good story. The journey of our people is also a journey of the self. This Torah portion reminds us, mark each way station, guard the memory of the becoming, and make that memory part of who you are. We're never quite sure where the journey leads, but we know it is a journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage that is made more special when we walk it together. This Torah portion also brings us to the end of a book of Torah. And at the end of the book of Torah, we say to each other, Chazak, Chazak, v'nit chazek, which is a journey and statement not just of the self, but of togetherness. We wish you strength. We wish that you may be strengthened. And we know that together, as we again find each other, as we again find our voices, that we truly strengthen one another. Chodesh Tov.